right, we're getting set up. Let's get our camera going. It's been a little while since I've seen you. Google Hangout. And I'm gonna have to toy with you for a moment and get you going. All right. Gotta figure out my camera situation. Okay, where's my camera? Is that what I'm using? Oh. I'm running it through another program. So this. Oh yeah. All right. Okay. And let's make sure that is transferring over to our Googly Hangout, which it looks like it is. All right. Man, I tell you what, wasn't so sure we were going to get all of it set up, but here we are. Whew. I got about 5 minutes until the official show. I'll run a few more tech diagnostics. Weird things on here, pay no mind. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have, God, we have links for our links right now, so let's see how this goes. And it ought to be an interesting go round. All right. All right, cool. I'll mute my microphone. You're gonna see and hear weird things maybe for the next 5 minutes, and then we will start the broadcast. All right, testing, 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 and we're gonna play a song. See if this comes through. Okay, we don't have audio coming through the Google Hangout that we do through the other links. So we would have to transfer the sound, which I may actually be able to do. All right. So let's see if this comes through. Nope. Okay. Good times. Boy, do I miss you, Google Hangout. You've always been so good to me. All right. Let me make a... Hopefully, I can see... I can see the viewership on the different links. So, hopefully I've got it set up where... the main audio is going out. Hey, buddy. Okay, so we have where people can hear me right now, but they can't hear you because I'm calling you live. I set it up on the Google Hangout and the other live streams. So we're on Google, we're on YouTube, and we're about to be on... Actually, you know what? I may just leave it. Well, it's worth a shot, I guess. I'll set it up on the Activist Liaison Network too, but if it gives me too many issues, then I'm going to go ahead and shut it down and just keep it on the Google Hangout and the YouTube. So I sent you the link. It's a long message, but in there is a YouTube link. And if you click on that, you should be able to hear me. And when you get on that page, you should be able to interact on the page as well. Yeah, there'll be a little like YouTube area that you can sit there and chat. Okay, just send me a message on the YouTube stream if you get on there and just let me know that you're there. All right, brother. Appreciate you. Later. All right. So I am coming through YouTube. Hello, everybody on YouTube. Glad to hear and see you all again. Hello. I got the other stream up and going. Okay, it says stream quality will be affected. So what I'm going to do is I'm dropping Activist Liaison Network on the USTREAM. We're not going to do that. We're going to stay on Google, and we're going to run, oddly enough, okay, yeah. I'm going to run it the way that I have it today, and then tomorrow it'll be different once again. But as long as you guys can hear me through YouTube, then it is all good. Let me go to our YouTube link. I'm not there yet. I apologize. And that'll be the primary that I use today. I'll use the YouTube to interact with everybody. You can still reach me via... you can still reach me on the Google Hangout, but I won't be checking it during the live stream. And that's because YouTube is the most interactive. So, all right, cool. We got a couple people in here. We got like 4 of us in here, I think. So, let me get... As much as I change formats, it is a wonder that anybody is able to listen at all or pay attention at all. So I appreciate those that have followed me around. And Google Hangout was where I started, so I'm probably going to stay here until something better comes along, but we don't have commercials or anything here, and it makes it nice and easy. So we can do our interactions with our phone calls, things like that, no problem. And it just makes life easier. So if you could share out the link, I would appreciate it. Obviously, because this is the first time I'm doing it on here in about a year or so, maybe 8-9 months. So I could just really use your help, quite honestly. I really appreciate it. Now, I told John Adams in Pennsylvania that I would be calling him first. So let's do that. We'll be giving him a ring. And I want to check on them because the cops are hell-bent on arresting anything that moves or breathes out there today. So let's give him a ring. All right. Sorry, as we're getting set up, it'll be a little bit chaotic, but I'll change the promo that I made for everybody to share and just keep the YouTube and Google links on there. So all right, cool. Let's give John a call. We do have Lotus calling tomorrow from jail. She'll be telling us what's going on with her, how they're trying to take her medications away from her, and excuse me, how everything was in court. So before we do that, though, let's give John out in Pennsylvania a call. Hopefully he's still a free man.
Hello, this is Matt.
Hey, Matt. Hopefully I'm talking to you, and it's not because John's been locked up.
No, we're all good.
Okay, good.
Locked up.
Good. How is everything out there?
It's pretty good. Yeah, we got I know I didn't end up having the live stream going, but I walked through with somebody else, and we kind of did a video tour of the courthouse. We should be getting up sometime.
Nice.
I don't know. Sometime soon, hopefully.
Nice. Are you guys? Are you going to be? And we understand with the live stream, you don't have to worry about that. We had. It's not easy. You have to have. It eats up your minutes on your phone if you're using your phone. If you don't have that and you use something else, then you'll never actually.
Be the right spot.
Yeah. It's tough. So, when I talked to John earlier, he was saying that the cops out there, their tone has definitely changed, where you guys have been able to enjoy a pretty comfortable rapport with them up until now. What's the difference? What's been happening?
I think they're starting to feel some of the pressure. I think he told you about the one of the older people that come out with us had gotten a phone call from the police chief. And it was like you're going to be quiet. And I think they said something like we're going to get our marching orders today, but I didn't see any actual Bellefonte police. We talked to the sheriffs a little more than usual because we were up closer to the courthouse for a good bit of the day. We kind of sat and chilled on the steps.
Well, and what's the tone of the sheriffs?
They were a little, they came out and said something about the cigarettes, and then I wasn't there when it happened, but I think they'd come out and we were handing out those the flyers about who was watching, and they said something about it being like it was solicitation, but then I think some of it is somebody's poking at them to harass us type thing. It seems like they're kind of like, yeah, kind of, don't really, care, but they're telling us that we have to tell you something about it type of deal.
Okay, so they're at least a little bit begrudging in the harassment they're supposed to give you guys.
Yeah, the deputies were at least, yeah.
Okay. Now, who is it that's giving you the most grief out there?
Today, I don't know that we talked to any of the the Bellefonte Police Department people. It was just the sheriffs. And I think we talked to them more because we were sitting on the front steps. We weren't out at the street for a while because that's where they had both of those things. They, we were, they could have talked to us with the door open, still, standing in it. You're that close up.
Yeah, when I talked to John earlier, he even seemed a little upset. He seemed like, the police had changed, or he actually said they had changed their rapport where you guys have been able to enjoy a pretty good relationship with them. And now, all of a sudden they're saying that you guys can't hand out flyers. You can't play any music. You can't be on the bullhorn. Is that what's been going on?
Well, the bullhorn and why we didn't bring those out and stuff today was because that was the police chief phone call I was telling you about. So
so when he had called, he had said
older people, and he was
when he called,
like, you're not going to do this, not going to do that. If you keep doing whatever, we're going to start throwing random citations for whatever we can find. But we never saw any of them today. That's what kind of what I was saying. But then, the sheriffs were more nitpicky than they have been. So.
You hate hearing about that because our sheriffs are our last line of defense. You really want them, to be on your side.
At the same time, they were kind of picking at people that were in front of the courthouse. We went through, both of the buildings and kind of, looked around, scouted everything out in detail, so we knew where and videotaped it all. Like in the main courtroom wasn't being used, so we sat in there for 20, 30 minutes, walked around the whole place, videotaped the whole thing.
By the way, we're live on the air. I meant to tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put them all anyways. Actually, I think I'd be running at the moment when the sheriff sitting in there.
Well, yeah, John had said that you guys may not be able to live stream.
Pretty courthouse in there and stuff.
But he said you guys would have plenty of videos, so I just wanted to call, make sure you guys were safe, make sure everything. John was telling me where they seemed a bit more aggressive today. They seemed, like they were actually following through with, whatever it was, whatever problems they said with the bullhorn or whatnot. And he really didn't care for it. So I said, okay, then you guys go back home, have a meeting between now and the next time you go out. And because it looks like the police have had a meeting, and it only makes sense, if they got their ducks in a row, then you guys go get your ducks in a row and make sure that when you come back prepared and ready to adjust and adapt to whatever it is they do.
And I wasn't out when was running there picking up a couple things when they came out talking about the flyers. So I don't know the details on that one, but
yeah,
that might have been right after that you had talked with John before, I think. So
okay,
I would imagine, but I didn't see the details of what happened there. Hopefully, since I went there, somebody else got a video so I can see what happened.
Right? Yeah. Well, hey, I wanted to check in and make sure you guys were free, man. I wanted to make sure you guys were all right. And then, if something happens, man, give me a call. Let us know.
We'll let you know.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. And Matt, is there anything you want to say to everybody before I let you go?
Just stand up against the corruption, because it looks like just having a few people out lit the fire out here. So
yeah,
everybody else just make a couple signs and go out there and stand out there and be amazed at what happens.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's good advice too. I appreciate you, bro, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, nobody's in jail, so that's excellent. All right, I'm gonna get a hold of Alex. Alex Freeman over at the Fifth Column. You know, he's the man about town, man, when it comes to activism. He's always there. He's always around. He's always trying to get the truth into what's going on. And so he's got his ear low to the ground on everything. And he's got something going on. Going on that he wants to tell us about that is and by the way, all this is always archived, so you know you can always go back and listen to this if you need reference for some of the information that'll probably be said today, either by Alex, probably by all of them. Michael C. School. Now Virgil, I haven't been able to get a hold of him. I saw his post and he hasn't hit me back yet. So, but he was harshly sentenced, and then he found some case law that, and I'll read it to you. It says that he doesn't have to prove the constitutionality, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, let's get Alex on here. Let me contact him. And we'll see what is going on with him. And later on, we can do this through Skype and things like that. But today, I just set things up really quick, realizing I could run the program we use for all the live stream, USTREAM, all of that. We could use it for the Google Hangouts and YouTube. So and then that keeps for better audio and stuff. All right. Mr. Freeman. Hello, sir.
Good morning.
How are you? Oh, I can hear myself. I'm echoing.
Yeah, I can mute it.
I appreciate it.
Is that better?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I've got 1.5 million things to talk to you about, and I'd like to be able to just call you once a day with the stuff that's going on and all the different things.
Oh man, you don't have me on speed dial already?
I do. I just don't call. I know you're a busy dude, and I try to respect your time, man. But I know you got something going on. So what's?
Well, I got a couple of things going on, and one of them I just found out about 20 minutes ago.
Jeez.
Where shall we begin? Do we want to start with the corruption, or do we want to start with the martial law?
Oh, do I get to choose?
Choose away.
All right. I want let's go with corruption. Corruption first.
All right, let's go with corruption first. This is a fun story. Yesterday, a group called the Campaign Legal Center, in coordination with another group, Democracy 21, filed 4 complaints with the Federal Elections Commission against presidential candidates. They allege that these quote-unquote candidates that have not declared their candidacy are raising absurd amounts of money for travel, for setting up campaign offices, for media buys, etc., that are outside FEC regulations and guidelines and should thus be sanctioned, punished, whatever. That's kind of good news, right?
Okay.
Well, I mean, you've got 2 groups here that are fighting corruption and calling out these candidates
which, by the way, we have 11 Democratic candidates, 16 Republican candidates, and 3 independent candidates for president right now.
Dang.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
Only Ted Cruz has officially declared that he's running for president.
Oh.
The rest of them, some of them, by FEC regulation, are saying that they're just, quote unquote, testing the waters to decide whether or not to run. But others, like Jeb Bush and Scott Walker and Rick Santorum, are out raising incredible amounts of money without having to disclose it. They're funneling it all through super PACs.
That was my next question. Okay.
All right. So the way that the Federal Election Commission regulations work right now is that per election cycle, which this year there'll be 2 cycles, basically 2 disclosure periods. An individual contributor can offer a candidate $2,700 prior to an actual declaration that I am running for president.
Okay.
Jeb Bush recently had a $25,000 per couple fundraising event. Raised over $1 million in that one event. Before he declares that he's running for president, he's got a contribution goal of somewhere between $50 and $100 million.
All right.
So
Jesus.
you've got these 2 watchdog groups that are that have filed complaints with the FEC. They did this yesterday, saying that this is grossly illegal. Either declare or drop out and stop raising gross amounts of money. See, the purpose of testing the waters to determine whether or not you're going to run for president is so you can travel across the country a little bit, glad hand the people that you want to glad hand. And that amount, according to Paul Ryan at the Campaign Legal Center, is kind of reasonable. Are you going to have the financial backers to be able to afford a run for president, which is going to be expensive this year, or this campaign season? You've got the Koch brothers that have already pledged nearly $900 million just on their own.
Good Lord.
So, there's a lot of money floating around, and a lot of candidates are starting to grab at that money very, very early, and they're trying to do so by evading and avoiding financial disclosures of who's giving them money, who's supporting them, who's backing them. So there's a lot of opportunity for corruption there.
Well, yeah, and they just passed a law that you can now have sex with lobbyists. And being a lobbyist is only legal in this country. That's illegal in other countries, let alone having sex with them.
Well, it seemed to work for the DEA in Colombia, right?
Right.
There's nothing bad about it here.
Hitler never committed a crime. People need to remember
Right.
that.
That is exactly right. Well, so that's an interesting little story, right? It's a feel-good story. We've got some groups that are fighting corruption in this country, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm asking, is
Oh, yeah. I think that's what that's meant to be. Yeah, absolutely.
well, the 2 groups that have filed these complaints are funded by the Brennan Center for Justice, the Ford Foundation, the Open Society Initiatives, Soros Family Foundations, Rockefeller Family Foundations, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, and the Annenberg Foundation.
Taco Bell,
All of these
PepsiCo.
are connected to big oil.
Yeah.
Now, George Soros's hedge fund company owns a very large stake in TransCanada, the company that is building the Keystone Pipeline. We've already shown at the 5th column that the Koch brothers stand to gain substantially, not only through oil futures trading, but also through the refining of tar sands oil that's going to flow directly through the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah. But like when we pay for our gas, when we pay for it at the pump, that's the third time that we've paid for it.
So, oh, and we're going to keep paying for it. Trust me.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So Paul Ryan, the lawyer over here at the CLC, denies emphatically that he or anyone at his organization have had contact with their funders about this little project. But remember how many people are running, up to what, 30, 29, 30 people are running right now?
Yeah.
What if you could narrow that field down to, say, 20? You have a lot, or you reduce the amount of space that you've got to spread your money if you've got a lot of big money going into it, right?
Yeah.
And
you could concentrate wealth that way if you dwindle down the numbers.
so I brought up the Koch brothers. Now, the Koch brothers don't directly fund these organizations, but Paul Ryan did tell me that he would love to get access to Koch brother money. They're just sort of at odds ideologically. No big deal. One of the other organizations that I mentioned, the Annenberg Foundation, another one of interest is the Pew Charitable Trust. Well, the Koch brothers have decided that on some of their initiatives, prison reform, for instance, it's in their best interest to partner with outside groups. And they have started to partner with Annenberg and Pew in order to achieve their private prison system reforms. Those two organizations do fund both Democracy 21 and the CLC. So I can't, at this point, prove that money is directly going from Koch brothers to these other organizations down to the CLC. Paul Ryan denies that any money or any conversations have taken place between his funders and them on these FEC complaints. However, the appearance is still there. And if you look at it like this, that you've got a small system, put in a circle of, say, 10 feet in diameter. That's our Federal Election Commission law. That's the space that the CLC and Democracy 21 are operating. Now, concentric to that, say at 20 feet in diameter, you've got the big money influencing the political game. That's where the Koch brothers, the Pew Charitable Trust, and George Soros are operating. Now, if George Soros, Charles and David Koch both stand to benefit from things like the Keystone Pipeline, IMF support in the Ukraine, any wars in the Middle East or Central and Western Africa,
Yep.
it stands to reason that they might get together in some smoky back room with a snifter of very old brandy and say, you know what? It's cheaper to support Ted Cruz right now than it is Jeb Bush. Let's get Jeb out of the way.
Yeah.
Because Jeb and his Bush crony friends have their own oil interests that don't necessarily align with Soros and Koch. So what this is doing still on a grander level, even if the CLC and Democracy 21 are not complicit in some corrupt choice of deciding who wins and who loses in this nomination process, it still boils down to only a very select, very wealthy few are choosing who the rest of Americans get to vote for. Now, activists have been saying for a long time that there is no difference between left and right. Well, if anybody wanted any proof, there it is.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, from top to bottom, there it is. And they make the laws, like with the super PACs, the super political action committees, that say they're allowed to raise funds this way and all of this. It's a disaster.
So all of those guys can get together in a back room and say, well, if Hillary wins and Ted Cruz wins, if those both win the party nominations, we'll be fine with either one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not okay with Jeb Bush, so let's get Jeb Bush out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, what's the famous quote? You give me control over a nation's currency, and I care not who makes the laws.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, there's a perfect example of that as well. So the corruption goes from the highest levels, and it makes sense that if you have that much power, that much money, that much clout, that you're going to make sure that the political infrastructure behooves you and it's conducive to your financial interests. If you're allowed, if you can get away with it, you're going to make sure that the political infrastructure is built in such a way that is conducive to your financial gains. And, a lot of people, it didn't take a lot of study, and they found out that that's the case. That's where we're at. And so as far as the corruption goes, is there more than that?
On that selection process is almost identical, at least in numbers and percentage of the population choosing who gets nominated, identical to what happened in Hong Kong last year, that still has hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets screaming.
Wow.
They want their representation back. They want their government back. And what is America doing? We're watching The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not so much all of us anymore, huh? We keep seeing a pretty big resurgence. More and more people coming into the folds of activism, and it's been pretty exciting to be part of.
Oh, it definitely is, but it's definitely time to ramp it up a bit.
Agreed.
Nice segue to my next one.
Yeah. So that was number one, corruption. Number two, I believe, is martial law. Is that correct?
Or a step to it.
Okay.
And no, for all of your listeners, this has nothing to do with Jade Helm or any of the activities that have been going on in Florida right now.
It's not Operation Snakehead.
Well, I was busy looking into this corruption today. Something that I check on a regular basis slipped my attention at 8 o'clock this morning, 9 o'clock this morning. Your president and mine, Mr. Barack Obama, gave the United States, Inc. government the go-ahead to sanction suspected cyber criminals with financial and travel restrictions.
Yep. Via executive order.
Executive order blocking the property of certain persons engaged in significant malicious cyber-enabled activities. I, Barack Obama, President of the United States of America, find that the increasing prevalence and severity of malicious cyber-enabled activities originating from or directed by persons located in whole or in substantial part outside the United States constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with this threat. I hereby order all property and interests in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States or that are hereafter come within the possession or control of any United States person of the following persons are blocked and may not be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in. Guess what? You just became insecure in your person's papers and effects.
Yep.
You just lost due process through executive order.
Yep. And I can go on and on about what I believe those implications are, but I would love to hear what your gray matter thinks the implications are most immediately. What do you think the first ramification of this will be?
Oh, I had no idea. I've had all of 20 minutes to process that one.
Come on, man. You're being drilled, man.
You know, I read that and I think immediately of the SOPA, PIPA, CISPA legislations that are going through.
Yeah.
His recent executive orders opening up domestic surveillance to corporations in accordance with file sharing and information sharing amongst executive agencies and law enforcement agencies.
Yeah.
Other executive orders this year that are basically federalizing all local law enforcement agencies under the umbrella of the Department of Homeland Security. And what you have is, in addition to federalizing local law enforcement on the one hand, the force of the state, the commerce and economy of the state just got complete and total immunity to spy on you. And the thing with corporations is that the jurisprudence and constitutional law that relates to them protecting your civil rights and civil liberties is, those standards are much, much lower than the United States government doing. Bank of America and Amazon can violate your due process at any time. They can collect any information that they want. They do not have to issue a warrant for any of your information, especially if you go onto their site. It's already been proven, though, that last year, 2 years ago, Bank of America was spying on hundreds of thousands of Americans that weren't even Bank of America customers. All of that information now can be transferred with full and complete immunity to the United States government, the various agencies within it, who are then able to share back and forth amongst each other, which means if Bank of America ends up hacking your computer and finds out you're engaged in anything that's untoward to the security of the United States government, forget whether it's lawful, whether it's legal. Just like you said earlier, everything Hitler did was legal.
Yeah.
If you're fighting for your human rights, if you're fighting for your civil liberties, and Bank of America or Amazon have complete and total immunity to collect that information, transfer it to the United States government because of the federalization of their force arm and the law enforcement agencies, those agencies now have enough probable cause without having to disclose their sources to issue warrants and come in and arrest you, and now they can find the hard evidence. And that's where the due process can be argued. But what you're not going to be able to defend yourself in court is what gave them the probable cause in the first place, because those companies have complete and total immunity.
Yeah.
And now with this being a severe threat to national security, not only are corporations immune, but the United States government is immune as well.
Yeah, everybody has painted the target on us, on the everyday average person. And we are everybody's scapegoat. We are everybody's solution and problem. We are whatever they need us to be in that moment, but we are not free. And I wonder what you think should be the next step for us when we're seeing this agenda against us that is seemingly being ramped up. It's seemingly being moving at a faster pace now. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So what do you think should be a proper and appropriate next step for us?
That is the $900 million question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I asked. I was hoping like hell you were going to be like, well, Jeremy, we have this, and you know, I was going to roll with it. I figure, oh, go ahead.
The first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to take a line out of Pulp Fiction, Pump Up the Volume, and ask that everybody take to the airwaves, take to the internet, take to the streets, get the message out.
Yeah.
You know, we've got March Against Mainstream Media coming up in cities all across the country this weekend. That's an excellent place to do it. You've got Mr. Adams there in Pennsylvania that's been on the street for weeks,
yeah,
exposing corruption there. You know, for everybody that's listening, you don't have to necessarily be taking on the George Soroses and David Cox and National Security Agency every time you hit the street. You know, if you've got local officials that are engaged in corruption, local businesses. Activists last week shut down the Nestle plant in California.
Yeah.
For a day, but that is the type of action that needs to take place. There are plenty of groups. I don't care if you want to join with Anonymous or Code Pink or any other group, but there are thousands of groups out there that on a small scale are working to end this. And these networks that we've built up, we've got to engage each other and say, okay, I know somebody over here at Code Pink, and I know these people in Anonymous, and I know these people with the militia, and I know these people with the sovereign movement. And eventually, we're going to build up a large enough network of individuals that cross over from group to group that aren't necessarily just associated with one group only. This is not a matter of groupthink. This is a matter of a bunch of people with shared ideas coming together. There's not one specific idea. All of these various groups are coming at the same problem from a different angle. And the more we're able to combine forces, forget Voltron.
Right, yeah.
We've got the American people, and we got to form up quick, because we are quickly reducing our voice in this plutocratic society.
Yeah, our opportunity to change the dialogue is dwindling very, very fast at a very, very fast rate. And man, there was a couple of things you said there I couldn't agree with more. We need all of these different people, all of their different perspectives, and whatever it is they contribute, you know, to activism. However it is they contribute, we need that, because this isn't going to happen because of one group's ideas, one person's ideas. You know, think about it like this. Say one arm of activism actually goes in, grabs all the ruling class, and is organized well enough that we have all the ruling class elected, appointed officials, every single one of them, sitting in a jail waiting for a common law jury process. And at that point, we want to get the country back to where it should be. If we don't have groups like the Citizens for the Repeal of Common Core, then we're not going to know how to tackle education. If we don't have groups that are anti-Monsanto, then we won't know what in the hell's going on with our food. And if we didn't have Anonymous and other groups out there saying end the Federal Reserve, we wouldn't understand how messed up our banking system is. So you're absolutely right. These groups all have a niche in a purpose, and there's reason to them. And, you know, it is time for all of them to get together. One of the things I was wanting to talk to you about was getting you together in a personal, private conversation with Michael C. School, and go over some of the stuff he has going on in his life. He just had $20,000 taken from him. They just seized his account and just basically said they could. You know, I don't think it's any coincidence that this happens and all these laws are getting passed, you know, or, you know, executive orders are being written. And, you know, so there's some things going on with him, I think, from a journalistic side that you would be really interested in. And then you were talking about these different groups coming together. He has 2 national militia groups that he's working with right now. And they have admins, you know, and XOs all over the country, because the sovereigns and the militias have really started to see how much it is, you know, one hand feeds the other there, and how they should be working together. So it is happening. It's amazing. And do we need it to happen, you know, 50 years ago? Yeah. Did the burden get put on us? Yeah. You know, and another thing I agree with was you were talking about the networks that we're putting in place now. These networks, if we do nothing else, we'll have them in place infrastructurally for someone else to come along and be able to do more with, if that's all that we get a chance to do. But it's imperative that we do it. It's imperative that the work that we're doing gets done. And so, yeah, I agree with all of that.
You know, it's going to take all of us to make this happen. As more and more of these legislations roll in, the harder and harder it's going to become. Legislation, executive order, what have you. And as we see people like George Soros working with the World Bank and IMF to purchase Ukraine, as we see the U.S. trade representatives engaged in multinational secretive talks with countries in the Asia and Pacific region and in Europe with the TPP and TPIP. And we got to keep in mind that it's not just the trade representatives that are doing this. It is corporate lawyers and corporate executives that are writing these trade agreements. And, you know, activists here, myself included, we're worried about our representation. We're worried about our rights and our civil liberties, our civil rights. But those rights are not just American rights. Those are human rights. They extend to every single individual across this planet. Water is a right. Air is a right. If you have the right to life, those things are vital to it. You have to have them. And there's nothing anywhere, no law that can be written, no trade agreement that can say Nestle can take all of the water, or TransCanada can have a spill that destroys the Nebraska aquifers or Montana aquifers.
Yep.
Or that the trade or music industry can completely shut down websites just because they don't like them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's a lot of backlash going on across the world about that Americans don't care about what's going on in the rest of the places. No, there are a lot of us that really do. And for as much as I think across this country, we need to build the networks and unite to fight the corruption here at home, we need to be doing the same thing worldwide, because when it's the exact same corporations and supranational non-government agencies and organizations that are inflicting these policies, that are rewriting the laws of sovereign nations,
yeah,
it's going to take people working together across the world to end that system.
Well,
that system, that process is going to end up killing all of us.
Much like how we do across the world anyway. Whoa. Sorry. For example, our airline industry in the United States of America. It is, even after 9/11, still the envy of the world. You know, the infrastructure that we put in place. The world looks at our entertainment. The world, you know, we set the tone for many things. If Americans get control, the American citizenry, the American people, if we get control back of our country, things won't look the same. Television won't look the same. Everything won't be driven by advertisements. Our internet will look different. Everything won't be driven by advertisements. Our politicians won't be driven by corporations. You know, we would, as part of a natural progression, the way that we set the tone for a lot of the world, just by getting our hands in control of our nation, that would immediately have a trickle effect to the rest of the world, because we're going to take, you know, these large corporations and tell them, look, we don't want you. We don't want your money. We don't want your corruption. You can go somewhere the hell else. We don't want you here. You're done here. And that would be after seizing whatever assets rightfully belong to the American people. So, you know, we would, they would no longer be welcome here, and we would tank the economy out just exactly how it needs to be, you know, and rebuild it probably a hell of a lot faster than anyone could anticipate. You still there?
It's Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
I can't disagree.
Yeah, it's just, that's me in the land of if there. I've got a situation where a woman was locked up here, Lotus. She's a sovereign, and we are trying to acquire the video of her in the courtroom that her mom and everyone who's filed for it have been denied. Freedom of Information Act, all kinds of stuff. And the thing is, bro, as we know, is if this video gets out, she goes free, and it shows the corruption here, because this was supposed to be her assaulting an officer, but what it actually shows is a prosecutor attacking and assaulting her and pushing her into an officer. The officer didn't file charges against her. The state did. All of this came from her initially being pulled over, or I think she may have just been sitting in the vehicle. And they gave her a ticket for no operator's license.
Hold on just a second.
Okay. I think he's got a little one there with him. That's funny. I was talking to Michael C. School earlier, and he's got his munchkins with him. And that's just proof. Yeah, man, all of us are activists, and we're all moms and dads and sons and daughters. We're not rich people doing this. We are everyday people. Sound like you had a little one that was upset there.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. No, hey, we can wrap this up. That's fine. But I wanted to get you hip to what was going on with her since she's been in jail. It looks like her food has been tainted. Somebody came in and beat her up pretty good. Next time her mom saw her, she had a baseball-sized contusion on her head. Now they're trying to deny her heart medication and her other medications for asthma and other stuff. So she could die if she doesn't have those medications, and they simply don't care. So I was wanting to get you hip to what's going on and have you take a look at that if you wanted. Plus, talk to Michael C. School about what he's got going on, and let you know that we're trying to get a hold of this video, because I know it would set her free, and it would show the corruption, that they straight lied and said she assaulted an officer. She had quoted Ohio jurisprudence to them and said that it was an unlawful arrest, that she's allowed to resist, but she's not allowed to cause bodily harm. So she clasped her hands together to not be handcuffed. And they said, stop resisting. And that's when the prosecutor went to tackle her and pushed her into the cop, and the cop fell down. And they found her guilty and sentenced her to a year in prison for assault on an officer, then finally got her to court for the traffic stuff and dismissed it.
That's absurd.
And now everybody's worried about her because, she was...
she's getting ill treatment. She might as well be thrown into Homan Square or something.
Yeah. Someone had said, hey, do you like that food? And she said no, and they went and traded food. It was something she didn't want, and the girl got really sick from it. So that
prison is a matter for profit now.
Yeah.
And this isn't the first instance of law enforcement, prosecutors' offices burying videotape evidence in order to get a prosecution to go through or exonerate police officers for their wrongdoing.
Yeah, we should be able to, in a court of justice, in a court of law, we should be able to get that video, no problem, no questions asked, do your filing, whatever, get the video and check it out to make sure that everything is lawful. Why would they say no? Why would they tell her mom no? Why would they tell everybody who's filed and just just outright deny them? I mean, it doesn't make any sense unless something criminal happened.
Oh, it absolutely does. It's called a CYA policy.
CYA?
Cover your ass.
Yep. Yep. There's CYA and all over the place, dude.
Yeah, I definitely would love to keep up on that story and find out what's going on with it.
Yeah, I'll get you.
Does she have any support website? Is there any place that anybody can go to if they can either send her a letter or help get her some cash for the commissary or what have you?
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe for her.
You know, there's a activist support of making sure that justice is done. But in the meantime, you know, we need to look out for her mindset, her morale, etc. And especially if she's not being fed very well, you know, if you've got information that of a place that people can go to either send her a letter or help get her something out of the vending machine, even if it is crap food out of a vending machine, it's still better than starving to death.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what she's had to do, is eat out of the commissary. And that's not easy. That's not easy living. And so she has a GoFundMe set up, and I'll send you all that information. And if you're able to, we'll get together later. And I also want to get you together with Amy Wicks, who is a monster here in the Central Ohio area. She is the biggest champion, the biggest advocate for people that are either going to jail or in jail or getting ready to get out of jail or just got out of jail and or prison. And so she's somebody who just also got knowledge of this case. And so I got to get you together with quite a few people. So we need to get together later.
Not a problem. You know where to find me.
All right, brother. Any last words you want to say to the world?
Viva la revolution.
Yes. Excellent, man. All right. I'll give you a holler later.
All right, man.
Bye. That was Alex Freeman, journalist for the Fifth Column. Go to thefifthcolumn.com or check them out on Facebook. They are one of the many alternative sources you can find out there, and they really stay on the forefront as much as we're allowed to, because we're not allowed into our government process anymore. So we're going to take a break, and when I come back, we'll call Michael C. School. We're going to go over some of the things that's been going on with him, and then and I got less than an hour, so we'll go over that, and then I'll go over the information on when Lotus calls tomorrow from jail, and hopefully I think actually at the moment what I'll have to do is okay. I don't know if that is look at that. It's going backwards. All right, you'll have to read that backwards for a minute, and then I'll be back. Okay. We'll be back in a minute, guys, and then we'll get Michael C. School on here. Appreciate it. Hello. So I'm listening to a BBC report at the moment, calling Benjamin Netanyahu the most extreme leader out of all Western leaders. I love the fact that that's backwards. It just makes sense for this show, man. It's fitting. I don't know if you guys are seeing that backwards. That's how I'm seeing it. It is hilarious. Dang. Wow. All right. So let us call Mr. C, Michael C. School. He has, he works with so many organizations. He is a member of so many different organizations. I can't even begin to list them or count them. There is Citizens Action Network, which I've been helping with. He's got different branches of different things that he works on and does. Let's give him a call here. I'm gonna have to get a little stand for this. Oh, it's not backwards on there? Okay, it was backwards on mine. Hello, Mr. School.
Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
Going all right, buddy. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Did I catch you at an okay time?
Yeah.
Excellent. I was telling everybody that you're a member of too many organizations for me to list, and that I do help with Citizens Action Network, but that you do work with a lot of different organizations. And I'd also mentioned that they've been messing with you here recently specifically, and that Alex Freeman needed to talk to you. He's a journalist with the Fifth Column, and I believe you're familiar with him. So I was kind of leading into who you are there, and I didn't get to the Pro Se Toolbox or some of why we're having you on the show, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
I did the best I could there. I couldn't remember everything. Man, you do too much. You know, you got your hands in way too much stuff. You should go over a little list of some of the stuff that you're doing or involved in, just to let people know.
Oh, I originally started about 3 years ago. I started the group Prepare to Take America Back. I left that group and went to Citizens Action Network and helped the guy, Craig Butler, started that. I helped him get that going, and then he ended up passing away about 1.5 years ago. So I continued on with CAN, and I've got involved with the Fourth Continental Congress and the United American Militia Advisory Council. And the Fourth Congress and the United American Militia Advisory Council are groups that I helped co-create and establish, because there's no Patriot network out there in place right now, and everybody's running around chasing each other, figuring out, well, what do we do? Well, you got to build it, and if you got something for people to come to attract them, they'll start uniting and networking, and that's what we've done, is built a system nationally now that's it's starting to take effect. California, Pennsylvania, and Ohio are really coming together as networks where we have support for each other. And there's a lot of little doodads we come up with, like the Citizens Action Network, Activist Press Pass, and the Pro Se Toolbox. And everything we're doing is just meant to give people the tools to go out and empower them. So when public servants tell them that you can't do this, you have a law resource right here that says, oh, yes, I can. And if you continue to mess with me, I'm going to take your badge and take your job.
Yeah. Let's go over some of that. The Pro Se Toolbox is a part of the arsenal that we have of things to use for the retention of our republic. And can you give us a brief explanation as to maybe an example of how that could be used?
Well, there's a couple different documents in there that are useful that aren't very well known, and there's a reason for it. One of them is it's called Business and Professions Code Form 6068, Duties of Attorney, and it's the attorney oath of office. And
that's important because nobody knows that attorneys have an oath of office they have to hold to, and they're sworn to the Constitution like everybody else. But that, since nobody knows about the oath, there's no way to enforce it. So we've included that form in the Pro Se toolbox. And then another one is the Uniform Bonding Code, because for law to be valid, there has to be a financial remedy if you're injured from that law or injured from that law falsely. So the Founding Fathers put together a system through the Bill of Rights is an employment contract for public service. So every public servant that works in government is sworn to the Bill of Rights through an oath and a bond. And if they violate the Bill of Rights, then technically they're supposed to compensate you. They're supposed to have their oath and their bond on them at all times. So if you tell them, hey, you screwed up, you owe me, you can take their bond and oath and endorse the back of it as a bill of exchange and turn it into a bank to get paid for it. And that's a process that we're reintroducing because it hasn't been used for a long time, so nobody really knows about it anymore. And then the other important document is something called the Constitutional Criminal Complaint. And the reason nobody knows about that one, because everybody's told that you have to get an attorney and go to court and all that stuff, and you do have to go to court, but the court you want to go to is a federal court. And by using the criminal complaint, it's a self-help method. It's like a personal redress of grievances that you can use on an individual basis against public servants, or you can file a huge lawsuit with it for racketeering against public servants for corruption. And I'm currently doing that. I've got 3 states tied into my racketeering lawsuit, and it goes all the way to the federal government, including the FBI and DHS right now. So
how much?
There's a lot of. Sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
There's a lot of power in that tiny little toolbox. So we're always adding to it. And there's some other documents in there. The very first page of it is kind of an intro and an explanation of what the basics are for each document and why they're important. And there's documents in there too that it explains about that if you're in a court case right now, to enter several of the documents on the court record, because then if you still get charged with it, the court has established your case for you. So when you kick it up to a federal court, you don't really have to do so much work because they've already done the work for you.
What is the implication of, well, what do you think, do you believe you've experienced fallout from taking this kind of a stance?
Yeah. I've had my first bank account was seized last year, and I lost somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000. So my second, that was back in September, and then recently, a couple days ago, the Franchise Tax Board seized another one of my bank accounts through Bank of America for unpaid vehicle registration, which is crap because the vehicle had a non-op on it, and taxation is voluntary. So for them to do this is extortion. So I'm going to sue the Tax Franchise Board and Bank of America for fraud too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, what paperwork would they typically have somebody file if a bank seizes their account and says you owe us this money for whatever reason or whatnot?
Well, there's the world revolves around commerce. So if you know how to control commerce, you're a very powerful person. And by studying commercial law and the laws of equity, that's what I'm doing, because that's the highest form of law there is in the world. And the statutory court system is an inferior system of law that's beneath equity law. So I took the criminal complaint that's in the toolbox, and I made my own version with it and added some documents to it to create a common law method of redress, so you don't have to go through the courts except to enforce it after you've already established your affidavit.
It's actually pretty amazing. Explain to people what a statutory court is.
A statutory court is, it's like I live in California, and out here we have the California Superior Court System, and the Superior Courts control everything from the state level down to the counties and the cities, and they're all incorporated, which makes them de facto. And statutory law is de facto law because it's all the only true law in the country is the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and everything else is fictional code and statutes that was created off of it. And that's where we get the statutory court system. It's a fiction created for the purpose of extorting money out of the population under false pretenses.
So the court that we're used to is inferior to what it is you do.
Yeah.
And if you file your paperwork correctly along those lines, then what do people stand to benefit?
Well, through the process, the way that I do it, I send out a paperwork package, and I do it through a certified mail process for lawful service. And when I do it, after the first part is you establish the affidavit, because an affidavit is it's a system of facts written down that after they've been on paper for 30 days. So, well, you put this process together, you mail it to the other party, and if they don't reply within 30 days, your affidavit becomes evidence. And it's a process that we'd have to explain on one of the conference calls because it's kind of in depth.
Okay.
But once you've established your affidavit after 30 days, because nobody ever replies to it because they think it's crazy because they've never heard of it. But it's because that all the public servants are trained in statutory law, which is not law, it's code enforcement.
Right. And we hear that a lot. I mean, we do. You have to enforce this code. You know, we have code enforcers. I mean,
but the potential, I have 2 liens going right now in California against public servants, and they're racking up $3.7 million a day, and they've been going for 3 years. And all I have left to do is file it in federal court and collect on it. But I gave these guys so much rope that they hung themselves, and they hung about 40 different public servants in the county by trying to cover each other's ass. So they just picked the wrong team.
Wow. So that's probably worth $1 billion right now.
There's another guy. The last time I tallied it up, it was I think it was $1.2 billion. There's another guy that's he's the Alaskan administrator for Citizens Action Network, and he's suing the state of Alaska, and his liens are at I think about $4 billion right now. So, because the statutory system includes all the attorneys and all the law enforcement and all the politicians, it's hard to fight it. You have to pick little battles here and there, and that's why it's important that everybody starts getting on the same page and using the same system, because once we're all speaking the same language and pointing the finger at the same place, we become very powerful because we're acting as one.
Well, I think people are more ready for that than they've been in my lifetime. In the short time that I've been here, I see people, they're more ready for that than ever in this country.
And it sounds overwhelming and intimidating, but it's because I've spent 3 years just studying what I'm doing now to figure it out. But it's simple because the Constitution is the cornerstone of our society and our law and our way of life. And the closer you get to something, the original of something, or like the first one, the more pure it is. And so the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, that's the original law for our nation, and that's why all the statutes and codes and amendments that follow, like people go on about the 14th Amendment and the 17th Amendment and stuff, and those are irrelevant because they're inferior to the original founding document. So that's why the system of law that I put together is based on the Bill of Rights, specifically as the employment contract, because when you go after a public servant for breach of oath, they can't get out of it.
Right, yeah. That's wise. Let me ask you this before I drill you on anything else. There was an executive order that was passed today. I suppose it has to be passed by himself. That they wrapped it up in language where they said basically it was about hackers. But and that was the wording they used when they released it to the main media. But what this has pretty much completely takes away due process, and it does say, I mean, you can take even an American person's, you can take their freedom, all of that, and it even had language like martial law in it, and that was done today via executive order. So those executive orders, along with those statutes, pretty much are meaningless. Is that correct?
they're only meaningful if you give your consent. So yeah, they're meaningless.
Yeah, I didn't consent to it, so.
But the person that would have to implement it is the county sheriff, because that's where law really becomes, it goes into effect, is at the county level.
Well, I'm getting little pamphlet copies of the United States Constitution, and I'm going to take them to the sheriff's office.
There's a reaffirmation of an oath kit that I put together, and I'll put it on your wall later. I started, I sat and watched everything that's going on in all these other different organizations for the last 2 years, and saw the directions they took and what they accomplished. And basically everybody goes to D.C. and screams and yells and protests and spends a lot of money they don't have, and nothing gets accomplished because the politicians don't work for us. Well, we've actually been under martial law since 1933 through the War Powers Act, but it's only the public servants that have been implementing it, and you don't feel it. And that's why when people go into the courts looking for justice and they get thrown under the bus and they can't figure out why, it's because the courts are not courts of justice. They're military tribunals under the statutory system. So under that system, you've already been judged guilty, and all you have to do is pay whatever fine they've chosen to extort you for, and then you're done.
Like our friend Virgil in Xenia, Ohio, was found guilty and then was sentenced to 30 days in jail, and then they suspended it for 2 years, so he got 2 years probation. In total, he has to pay almost $1,000, and that's all the court costs and everything. And then he also has to do 100 hours of community service before July. So I'm going to see, I talked to him yesterday and I got his blessing, and we're going to see if we can't put together. All of this started because he panhandled $42 and then gave it to charity. So we're going to see if we can't get a bunch of people down there and panhandle money for his court costs.
If you guys, later in the week, if you guys have time, if you, John Adams, and the guy in Xenia and Alex Freeman want to get together on a conference call, I'll go over the paperwork with you so we can start getting Xenia ready for his federal court trial.
Yeah, that's what he's doing too. Yeah, I guess you're in the loop. He's ready to. He's going to go to federal court, and he just found some case law. He said too that says he doesn't even have to prove the constitutionality of his case. So, yeah, we got to get you guys together.
Well, federal law runs under the U.S. codes, and under Title V United States Code, subsection 556D, proof of jurisdiction must be on the record, and once it's been brought into question, it must be proven to exist, and so it can't be assumed. And there's a precedent for that called Trinzi versus Pagliaro, where an attorney forged documents and brought him into court and won a lawsuit and a bunch of money in fraud. So that's why that came into be, that it has to be on the record now. So as long as he gets that on the record and some documents in the pro se toolbox while he's in the statutory court, if he does it in the statutory level, then when he kicks it up to the federal court, he's already established all his evidence, and every public servant that was involved in his case, he can get them all prosecuted for breach of oath. Because if you're an oath-bound public servant and you're aware of a constitutional violation, you're duty-bound to investigate that or report it to an authority that can investigate it.
I think this is information he would be very interested in.
Yeah. 18 U.S.C. Chapter 3 is accessory after the fact, which would be all the public servants that are in that courtroom watching him get thrown under the bus. And then 18 U.S.C. 4 is misprision of a felony. And by citing that on your paperwork, it launches a federal investigation into racketeering for conspiracy. And the difference, you hear a lot of people going to court, like the one, my pet peeve in California is Kelly Thomas. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes, I have.
I tried to contact his dad and get him to use these methods because they didn't get justice, and Kelly Thomas didn't get what he deserved. I mean, he didn't deserve what he got. And a lot of people, when they file these cases, they file civil actions for damages, and that gets thrown out of court and dismissed. And the reason why is because they don't attach criminal charges to it, and a lot of people don't know that. So Brian Koth is the only person I know of since 1983 that has now implemented that process by attaching criminal charges through 18 U.S.C. 4 as part of his criminal complaint. So when his case gets heard in federal court, they can't just dismiss it because he has cited the mandatory codes to launch the racketeering investigation.
And that's Brian Thomas Koth in he's in southern Michigan.
Yeah, he's from Ohio, but he's living up in Michigan.
Yeah, yeah. He considers himself a political refugee.
Yeah, he is.
And
they're after him hard, and he's been using the criminal complaint in his case and citing law that I've been telling him about and stuff he knows about mixed in with it. And he's started seeing, I've only known Brian 3 months, and he has seen more action in his favor in the last 3 months than he has in the previous 9 years.
Yeah, and I know that's the case. I know he ended up he won the custody battle for his kid.
They took custody of his kids from him 9 years ago under false pretenses.
Yeah.
And then he was beat up a couple times by his wife's husband and her husband's friends, and then the cops beat him up again after that and threw him in jail. And he's had a lot of trouble over this stuff, but it's awesome to see it turning around so quickly for him, because he tallied up, he did the criminal complaint over the weekend, and he called me Monday to tell me that he tallied up the damages finally. And because the criminal complaint, it's got step-by-step process to teach you how to do it and how to tally up the damages and all that. His lawsuit is worth $7.75 million.
Jeez.
So there's, and that's the thing is, like a police officer or any law enforcement, their bond is worth $10 million per occurrence. And the Ninth Circuit Court has now ruled that deprivations of rights claims are worth $15 million per occurrence. So it's just a matter of knowing what paperwork to file and how to file it correctly for maximum results.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would be real scary if we got people all over the nation started to file this paperwork, and the courts were having to deal with this on a mass scale. I wonder what executive orders they would pass then.
Well, the thing about all these executive orders, all you have to do is file a Title 42 action for deprivation of rights in federal court, and you can overturn an executive order, but that's not something that anybody's going to tell you, because they're all playing the same game.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's a lot of, I go to the heart of things, and like with the county, if you have problems with law enforcement, if you go out to the sheriff's oath and the district attorney's oath, those are the two top dogs that control the courts and all the law enforcement. So I've been telling people now, when you go down to the county clerk recorder to collect oaths, get every oath-bound public servant that they have in the file, and they usually charge anywhere from 25 cents to $3 per oath. But if you get the sheriff, the district attorney, the water district manager, the board of supervisors, and the superintendent of schools, you can get rid of Common Core, you can get rid of fluoride, and you can turn the county around just by occupying the county board of supervisors meetings with all those oaths and videoing it and serving them criminal complaints, because that's one-stop shopping right there. Yeah.
I'd like to be part of organizing something like that by summer's end, where we have, we can contact the citizens for the repeal of Common Core, and we can reach out to a lot of different folks and get people at least aware of the information.
Yeah, and that we have state groups for all the Citizens Action Network pages on Facebook, and the idea behind that is to get one administrator that runs all the social media and all the groups and coordinates everything. So when all these different groups, when something comes up, all the groups get notified, so everybody that's available can support each other at all these different protests, because there's 17 million people in the Patriot movement, but they're following 30 different agendas and goals.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
So if we were able to network them on 5 specific causes, we'd kick the shit out of the system real quick.
Yeah.
Because I think that once we got together as a solid network, we could have the country turned around in less than 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if that was the mindset of the American people, or enough of us, then there would be no way to deny us.
No.
You know?
And that right now, a lot of people question what I'm doing because they say, where are all your successes? Well, you're not going to see them because of something called the non-disclosure form, that everybody that wins these lawsuits is required to sign the non-disclosure form. And when I win my lawsuit, I'm going to sign the non-disclosure form too, because I want my check. But as soon as I get the check and cash it, then I'm going to file another lawsuit for deprivation of rights for forcing me under duress to sign the non-disclosure form, because that's fraud. It violates 18 U.S.C. 1346, honest goods and services fraud, because we are entitled to remedy from injury, and using the non-disclosure form, we're not learning of any successes from others. And can you imagine if it was on TV? Yeah, so-and-so over here in this county won a Title 42 action today and won $30 million.
Done.
Everybody would be going over there and finding out, who the hell is that guy? I want to do what he did.
Yep.
So it's taken time, but we are starting to have an effect, and people are aware of the oaths of office, at least, and that's a lot farther ahead than the country was a year ago. Absolutely.
And I think it's just going to grow. It doesn't have anywhere else to go, honestly. Look, I got about 14 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to say to the world before we wrap it up here?
All right. Yeah. The oath of all public servants are bound by oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And the reaffirmation of oath is for the sheriffs right now, and it's meant to reaffirm their loyalty to the organic Constitution of 1789, which is the de jure Constitution, because right now, all public servants, including all the judges and the courts, are all bound to the de facto Constitution through the Corporate Act of 1871. That's something that people need to research, is the difference between de facto and de jure, because you want to live in a de facto, or you want to live in a de jure nation, and right now we're de facto, and that's why nobody gets justice when they go to court.
And de jure means what again?
De jure means rights inherent in people.
And de facto means?
De facto basically means rights are inherent in the corporation.
All right.
So rights are inherent in government.
Yeah.
So after the Civil War, when J.P. Morgan bought the government for $3 million, he created the Corporate Act, which made him the owner of the country, and we're basically customers. That's as far as your rights go anymore, as you are a customer.
Yeah. We tend to believe that in this case the customer is always right, and we do not want to be a customer. So we're gonna make ourselves free. I think we're gonna be remembered for the efforts that you have, especially with different militia groups and different networks of different patriots, and getting people together. You know, I think you were ahead of the curve there, and now people are starting to come around. So there'll be more and more people that'll be coming into the fold, I'm sure, as time goes by.
Yeah, as people start seeing successes from other activists that are involved in this stuff, it's really going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
But the more people that start helping people, like the guy in Xenia and Carl Pop, and there's a guy in Cincinnati, and then there's Brian Cove, are people that get on that bandwagon and support these guys, the faster you're going to see victory. And as soon as they have victory, you've created a precedent where you can file your own case based on their paperwork and get paid the same way, but without half the hassles and legwork. Because like me, it's been 3 years off my back trying to prove this process and get it out there where people can replicate it easily.
Yeah. Now you're seeing success in it. That's got to feel good. You know,
it does. And I put myself on hold personally with my federal filing, because I would basically have to turn off my phone and computer for about a month to 2 months to get it all where I want it to go. So I decided to just finish my stuff up in court for now, which I'm out of court. I've been out for about 2 weeks, and I want to build the network and get it rolling smoothly, and then file my federal case, because then I'll have a success to show people based on my own trial and error stuff. But then, no matter what happens to me, the network continues and it can't be stopped.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, I'm going to have you on here one time, and we'll discuss marijuana and legalization versus decriminalization versus medical versus everything.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Man, I really appreciate you being on here. We'll, I got to get you in touch with a ton of people, so we'll do that. And, man, thanks. Thank you for coming on.
No problem. I'm here anytime.
All right, bro. Appreciate you. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Take it easy.
See ya.
Later.
All right. That's Michael C. School out in California. Thank God these are archived, right? So we'll get all of those people together. Lotus will be calling in tomorrow, and we'll have stuff figured out on the activist liaison network. And man, I appreciate it. And it just keeps rolling. Thank you, Cynthia.